All right, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to go over how to add colors and materials to our objects. So first thing we want to do is open up our project, whatever you named your project. Mine is still called Game Jam Template. So yeah, we'll open this up. And then we got our project here. Again, just to remind you, the projects folder is down on the left. And in here, we have our new game assets. This is where you can put your assets. Just so you don't destroy what I've given you as well. It also makes it easy to update if you want to, like if I just change, like say something like my materials folder, I can just give you the materials folder and then you can just drag that in and not have to update your whole project. But this is a good way to separate your own assets from what's provided. So in here, we have two folders. We have the materials folder and textures. We're not going to do textures today, but we'll do materials. First thing I'm going to do is create an object, 3D object cube. And then I'm going to create another object, 3D object sphere. And we're going to look at these two objects and move these down. Try to put them off on their own so they're not like anything in the foreground distracting us. And then I select both of them, scale them up. And now we got our objects, right? So once we have this, we're going to look at adding a material to it. You don't have to follow this. I'm just showing you how to do it. So how do we add a material? The basic way to add a material is to go into your new game assets, go to materials and right click right here. So new game assets, materials, right click right here and create right here at the top and go down to material. We call this red modal, maybe something like that, or red flat we'll go. And then I usually put matte at the end, so underscore matte. There's a reason for that. We're searching later, but just know that most people tend to put underscore matte at the end so they can search it within the engine. So how do we effectively change the color here? Because normally if we just add this in, it looks the same. So how did I add it to this object? I just drag it onto it, but it'll look the same. So how do I change this material? Select it right here. You'll notice this setting area changed. So select the material, go right here and change it to red. And then I drop this on an object by dragging it straight onto the object. Another way to add this to an object would be to select it and drag it into its mesh render materials. Or we could select it straight through here and go right here and select it. And if we wanted to search, we could do matte. And you'll notice when I type matte, if I do it again properly without hitting enter, this material pops up. It kind of limits what I see. And then I can select the right material. So that's how you add it. And then if I add it to the other one, we've got two mattes on one object. But if I were to change the settings within this material, it will change for both of them. This is good and bad. If I had a lot of objects that I wanted to change all at once, I could have one material connect it to all of them and change them all at once. But the bad thing here is, what if I want them to be separate? Well, I have to keep making new materials. Or we can do an advanced version of this, where we don't have to create a new material right here. Instead, we go into our master game assets and we go to scripts folder right here. And then our scripts folder has something in here called texture assigner. So I created the script. You can feel free to use it. Basically, you just drag this onto your object, or you select the object and drag it over here and make sure you have a blue line. But I like to just drag it and make sure I have a blue line, but you can also drag it straight onto the object. The reason why I like to do it over here is just to make sure I don't like accidentally drop it onto like the background over here if I don't want to use it on this object. Then what I can do, now that I've got the texture assigner on both of them, and just to give you an idea of how it works, I'll create one more empty, or not empty, but another game object just to show you. If I drag this onto here as well, it'll work with just the default texture too. So if I go into this asset, now that it has the texture assigner attached to it, you'll notice it says texture assigner and then the material. Down at the bottom, the material should be at the bottom. You can now change this to its own color, and you can change its settings to be different than this one. You can also change this one as well. So if I were to change this to like red or red gray, and then change this to be more like a metallic smooth, it'll look a lot more metal. And then here you can see if I've added the texture assigner to this, it gave me a material underneath it as well. But the benefit of this is I didn't have to create a material underneath. Like I didn't need to create this material for these objects. All I had to do was add the script to the object. And that saves data. It might not seem like a lot, but when you build up a lot of materials, you can build up a lot of data in a game, and you kind of want to limit data where you can. So the texture assigner is really good at limiting that data. So again, it's in master game assets scripts, the last one, currently the last one, texture assigner, and you drop this onto an object. So once you have that on the object, you select your object and you scroll to the bottom, as we did before, and you'll see texture assigner, and you could right click on this and move it down if you wanted as well, or move it up, but that's just more advanced moving around components. And then you could open up the material for it right here under the arrow. And under here, I want to go over a few things. We have albedo, which is our color, and we can't change the alpha, but we can go to metallic right here and change metallic to get more of like a softer look to it or a deeper metal. And then if we change this smoothness, it'll change like the reflection on the object. So we can change how it like reflects the world around it. And it can also make it look very flat or semi-flat or very shiny. So basically the smoothness covers its name covers what it does. And yeah, that's how you begin to add colors to game. And then if you want to model stuff, you just start modeling it and making whatever you want to make. So you could go down here, and then I'll show you one other thing real quick. If you go to this object per se, and we go into its material that we added with the texture assigner, and I'll just make it orange. If I go down to the emission section and I bump it up, but I have white or another color on it, this will have its own light source. Like it's not going to project onto things because unfortunately it doesn't do that with WebGL. But this light source, essentially, if you had a dark area, this would be visible. It would be glowing. Like it would have its own it's not light, but you would see it. Like it doesn't care about the shadows. Like it projects its own color. So just know that if you turn on emission and you want things to show up in the dark, like almost as if they're glowing, and you want to add like a glow effect to it, you could. But basically, that's how you would create things that you can see in the dark. And then you just turn this off and on as needed for objects. So yeah, that's our materials, and that's how we add materials to objects and begin creating colors within the games and materials. In the next video, I'll go over texturing a little bit and just like applying images to an object and how to actually add those images so you can begin creating your own textures on objects and then applying them to these materials. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video.